And I wanted to share a space setting um, based on some things I've been learning in the Northern Gateway, which is a program with Kelly Lear, if any of you know Kelly, and Jeremy White in Glastonbury, England. And because I'm a Celtic American and I have no connection to my traditions, I've known that there'd be a point of time where all of us need to find our traditional roots. So I've done a little bit of work with Jeremy and Kelly, and I want to share our space setting today, as you would with in a Celtic circle, at least a type of Celtic circle they share. So just take a breath, and your body's held firmly, securely right here on the planet, Mother Earth, embracing you. Today I'm setting the circle as a Celtic American from the divine star family of curiosity for all good. My journey back to self has focused on the remembrance, restoration, and speaking of our home in the stars, our galactic history. And knowing that my traditions of my lineage on Gaia had been cut off from me and others like me, I waited for a time when those traditions would call. And recently, I have been in those circles. We stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. They allowed themselves to be bent and twisted and hidden in order to allow our family lineage to survive beyond the invaders of domination and evil. They have done what was necessary for you to be birthed. Now we reach back to them with the strength, awareness, and restoration of our divine star mission that they had hoped for us. We reach back from what they would call future to embrace them with love and healing, for no ancestors are left behind. We connect at this moment within the divine feminine triad of Gaia, Sophia, and Grace to set space for this class. I call to the direction of the north, to Odin and Frigga, the element of ice, the dark fae, the creators and smiths of wonderful things, and to those who seek in the dark to find the magical tools. Let this be a place of wisdom, of secrets revealed, of knowledge gained, of the beginning and the end, and all places in between. To the direction of the east, to the mighty Thor and Sif. To Thor, we ask for your protection as we sit in circle around the fire, learning to perform our work with good intent and purity of heart. We honor the element of fire, its warming and cleansing. All are purified in the flames. I turn to the south, to the land of the elves, to the Lord and Lady Frey and Freya of the greenwood, the element of earth. May the richness of the mother of her soil and fertility and inky Frey make all our dreams and wishes grow into fruition. I call on the green fairies of the forest and the Lady Frey to open our eyes to an abundant and beautiful life. And to the west, to the wise and just Tyr and Zissa. May Tyr's discipline and justice keep us on our path as we always seek the truth and stand in integrity in all we do. I call to the element of fire. May our prayers travel quickly to the halls of the white elves. May their answers to our questions be like whispers in the night. Now to the gods of each land of those on which we now stand. We invite them to join us. We are eager to show up in our authenticity, to continue to embrace our studies in relationship to the nature of the Divine Mother, Earth Mission, our galactic star families, and all that is. We call in our divine star family collectives. In this momentous time, we gather back to you within the etheric protector and connectors of the Guardian Circle Vortex. We call ourselves back to you, our place of journey beginning. We connect our galactic adventure to our mission on Gaia to say we are here to bring you our divine agenda and purpose of all good here to the lands we now walk. With great humility and honor, we call all places we have journeyed home. Our circle is set never to be broken. We are one. And so it is. As you sit in that energy, just let it fill you, awaken within you the connections to your heritage here on Gaia. Honoring the lands we walk, the stories we have lived within. And we're here to expand and be helpful for our planet. And so it is. So now, let's each put ourselves into the circle. You name where you are on the planet and any quality that you want to add to the field. Okay? And you'll have to unmute yourself. So I'll start. Sharon Raji Maynard, still on Whidbey Island, state of Washington. And I want to add to the field vibrancy. And I'm passing to Angelique.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for your beautiful opening prayers. I love that so much. Feel home at once. Thank you. And so beautiful to see you all again. I'm in the Netherlands, in Europe, in Den Haag, The Hague, a city on the West Coast. And I add to the circle wisdom. And I go to, wait a minute, Aviva. Do I pronounce it okay? Aviva?
Yeah. So
Okay.
Aviva, usually go by Avi. I should just change it on here. I am in Helena, Montana. We're packing up to move to New Zealand in 2 weeks, so that's very exciting. And I'd like to bring grace into the circle and pass it to Deborah.
Hi, I'm Deborah, and I'm in Sanford, North Carolina, and I'd like to bring awakeness to the group. And I'm going to pass it to Alexandra.
My name is Alexandra, and I live close in North Carolina. We're about 8 miles from Arlington International Airport. I'm in the middle of a big construction project at my house, and so I would like to put into the circle the word focus. I would like to pass the torch to Cinda.
I'm Cinda. I'm in Portland, Oregon, just south of it. And I would like to bring into the circle inspiration. And I bring in my beautiful friend Spirit.
Thank you, Cinda. Sharon, I want to thank you for that, setting the space. It was wonderful, powerful. Thank you so much for letting me be part of it. And I am Spirit. I am in Somerset, New Jersey. And what I am bringing is my curiosity and freedom. And I pass the torch to lovely Gail.
Hello, thank you, Spirit. My name is Gail, and since Sharon referenced her heritage, my Hebrew name is Gittel, which translates to gay as in happy or joy. And so I call in Sharon Alexander.
Gail,
Yes.
you cut out just for the just about the place where you said what you would bring into the circle.
I bring joy into the circle, and I call in Sharon Alexander.
Thank you, Gail. Hello, everyone. Apologize for being late. I'm Sharon Alexander from Boulder, Colorado. And I guess two things come up for me right now. First is I'm engaged in a spring cleanse, an Ayurvedic cleanse. So I'm bringing the idea of cleansing and renewal and rebirth that comes with spring. We also had a tragedy here on Monday, and so I'm bringing grief. I'm bringing heaviness and also compassion for anyone that was affected. Thank you. And I choose Arlie.
Good morning. I'm in Eastbourne, New Zealand. It is morning here. I've already made a load of matzo balls and starting on the soup and the brisket because it's always better on the second day, and tomorrow is Passover. So I want to bring to the circle the joy of family togetherness and holidays. And Avi, we're thinking of you and missing you. And I'd like to call on Emma.
Hello, everyone. I am Emma. I'm in Northwest Massachusetts. Had to stop a second, couldn't remember which state I was in. There are so many. And today was close to 80 degrees, which is a really big leap in temperature. Not something that I historically have dealt with easily. So I bring in easy adjustments. And my Hebrew name is Tzipporah, which means little bird. And let's see, is that Christina?
Thank you, Emma. Hello, I'm Christina and I'm in Zurich, Switzerland. And I bring to the circle today courage.
Okay. So we have, in addition to the fact that your presence brings an amazing vibrational field, we have vibrancy, wisdom, grace, awakenness, might have been awareness, focus, inspiration, curiosity and freedom, joy, a cleansing and renewal, and definitely holding those who have been impacted. You know, those two incidences here in the United States in the last week, holding them in compassion and healing. Family togetherness. Oh yes. Easy adjustments and courage. Okay. So let's begin by seeing if there's any questions, anything that's come up that you would like answers to, or comments around about between the beginning of this course and where you are today. So anything that's on your mind or heart that you feel would like to deal with, put it out there first. Just feel free, unmute yourself, and we'll go popcorn style. So.
I can always speak up. Since it's not about from the beginning to now as much as just a couple clarification questions from last week. I was curious and would like to maybe better understand the idea of being encoded with the chips and the function of the two bodysuits. So I have 3 questions. That's one. And then how do members of the different 7 families come together? Well, yeah, it opens it up. Like, I'm wondering, even my family of origin, how do I know what families they're from? But the question is, how do people across families work together to rid outsider energy? And then that clarification is, our family of origin, I think I heard you say, is not necessarily of our galactic family. So, and then the final question, is there a bad or negative energy within the 7 families? My philosophy to this point has been that we forget. Those who do wrong have forgotten their goodness. And so I'm curious about that from your perspective, please.
Okay, let's take one at a time. In the third world, when the chip was created, it was like a software program. It was created by the Curiosity family, because they were curious, and they thought they wanted to give it a try to have less energy coming from home, to see what impact that would have on them. Would they have enough within themselves? What would it feel like? Curious is the only motivation there. And so they created a numerical formula, designed a program like a software program that I just call a chip, that could be inserted into the energy flow of each of those 12 family live streams. Okay. And so that chip would work exactly like maybe a virus on your computer. It would be going along, and all of a sudden everything shuts down, or almost shuts down, and then it back up again. And it's part of the chip. That's the intention. It's nothing bad about it. It was just an experience they wanted. And so when we removed that chip, probably we began removing it the latter part of the 1990s and into the 2000s. So as what we're doing in this class is we are going back to grab those corrections for your specific families and for you specifically. So the chips encoding has been removed across the board, but getting it specifically, we just want to make sure it gets for you specifically removed, and the new code, so that it's not impacting. The 7 families, every one of them came from a home source that was all possibilities of good, all possibilities of balance, all possibilities of harmonics. So in that home space, before any first world occurred, no, there were no negatives or imbalance, and still are not in home space. So it's like, some people call it isness. It's just being is, there's a movement through, but there is no negativity in that space. Okay. We did have, however, the agency to choose experiences, and that's how those who chose a dominating agenda, and I lump a lot of types of agendas under that name. Some of them are voyeuristic, some of them are parasitic, some of them want to experience violence. They're all under that label, domination outsiders. They chose an agenda that was contrary to their home for an experience. And that's what they've been doing. When I first started doing this work in early 90s, there was no cohesiveness, actually, no cohesiveness in those eight worlds. They'd had that outsider domination energy with them, and that energy alone intends to keep you unbalanced, intends to keep you entrapped. I mean, the intention is to weaken and weaken and weaken. And there was a great deal of shattering, non-unity, even as I worked with what would be called ascended masters, for example. There was an agreement amongst that group back in the early 90s. As I tuned into each one of them, they had their own idea about what was going on, and a lot of it was survival ideas, because that's what we were in, survival ideas, and so working with individuals and groups, smaller groups, we worked extensively in those galactic worlds until there's that unity, until the 7 families are all unified in their own agenda frequency. I would say like 95%. Every once in a while, we'll find something that we hadn't seen before, but very rarely. Here on this planet, even though everyone who is here on Earth's mission are here from one of the 7 families, are here by volunteering, most of those at a soul level are really, really damaged, crippled, and entrapped. You see, so it's not a matter of being able to say, like, even with my children, a few of them understand what I'm talking about, wanting to get involved in Guardian Circle and Deep Six, et cetera, and one on, but it's not for, you don't need your family group to do that. The law of personal choice, that's one of the reasons we have personal choice as a law on this planet, because we wouldn't be able to get people into consensus. The 100th monkey is not the law on this planet. Does it help to have more? Yeah, but it's not needed. Does that answer your question, Sharon?
I think so. I don't want to take too much time away from all of this. I'm just trying to process kind of big picture and also foundation. And so, yeah, I'll work with this. Thank you.
I don't think it's ever a waste of time for questions to be on the table, because how many times do we have to hear something before we really hear it? And then we hear it 3 months later and it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't hear it that deeply. So questions are never a waste of time here. They're always really valuable. So
a comment, it seems that this work, your work or whatever it is, this knowledge or wisdom sort of transcends all like barriers, political, race, religion, right? It is, yeah, which is fantastic. And it'd be great if more people could connect to it. Yeah. And so you say women because we have greater sensitivity, or?
That we haven't gotten to that place yet.
Okay.
Have greater sensitivity because we have a specific mission.
Okay, great. Can't wait. Thank you.
Yeah. And I was going to say something, but it slipped my mind. So any other questions out? I can see spirits moving.
Okay. Okay. It's a lot and I'm really enjoying this. So many questions. Star family and divine family, are they the same or different? And something Sharon just asked when you started speaking, I know most people are crippled by the parasitic energy. And I'm understanding we all have a mission, but are most of our missions being crippled by the parasitic energy? Like, I'm going to give an example. A person that's been addicted to drugs their whole life, was their mission to be a drug addict or to experience, like, where does all this come into play about certain people, what it looks in, according to some of us, didn't make it, but was that actually their mission?
Very good question. And again, what was the first question? Because that one, I wanted to start with the first one. What was that first question? Do you remember?
Are the star family and the divine family the same thing?
Yes, I always call, I have traditionally, I have called them the 7 divine families. But I began to realize in the last, say, 6 months or so, that people really relate to coming from the stars, that we are a star family, or we are a star being, or, in addition to spiritual being, they relate to the word star, which is basically what I'm saying is divine. So I either use divine star families or divine families. And what I'm doing with the glossary that's on the website, because someone asked for a glossary, so we put one up. And I'm adding to that as things come up in either my work or like this question. I'll make sure that something like that is in the glossary. So that really helps. Again, we haven't even gotten to Earth mission yet. Why this? And we will soon. But there was, we are highly intelligent, highly creative, magnificent souls. And we were becoming more and more trapped, energy being sucked away, devices, kidnapping. All the things that happened to us up there, we were no longer owners of our own self. We were owned. We were enslaved. We were enslaved in those 7 worlds. Okay. And so we tried and made many plans, different ways to try and get free. We just couldn't pull it together. We became more and more scattered, instead of stronger, we became more and more scattered, and we began to just survive. But in the survival as the host of a parasitic type being, your survival is of no interest to that being. If you die, they'll just look for another host. And literally our energy was being sucked away. Were we crippled? Yes. Some of the injuries crippled us. Some of our own contracts crippled us. Some of the things we went through already were beginning to cripple our energy, our vibration. It was no longer all good, all aspects of good. It was being colored by and tainted with vibrations of ownership. Not enough. Can't do it. Violence and wounded. And so we came up with a plan, another plan. Then that plan is the Earth mission. And when we get into Earth mission, then I can, we get more extensive into some of your questions, because it will I think it will give you a different way of looking at the different forms that some people are trapped in or not trapped in, you see. But we have lived on this planet 800,000 years. We've been on this planet. Most of the time, we have lived under domination cultures. Most of that time. How could we not have been crippled? All of us. So we look at it as racism, patriarchy, feminine, taking away rights of female bodies. You could look around, not, financial not supported, it's all over the place. We have been in a system that cripples us. And so we're at a good place because we're awake, we're together, the mission's been reactivated, et cetera, et cetera. So there is no longer like we have to hide in a cave to have our conversations like this. We no longer have to hide our light when we go out to do a healing, you see. So we live in a very different energy, but we're not finished yet. But most of our lifetimes on this planet, we have been in cultures of domination. and crippling, violence, etc. Okay, anyone else? So one thing I ought to have brought this up before we started, but last week we talked about beginning this call a half hour earlier at 1 o'clock Pacific time. So the bits and pieces, I didn't put out a survey. I had, had you think about it, because often I don't get enough surveys back anyway. And so I just thought, the consensus is if we move it up, that'll make it a little bit easier, a half hour. So it would be 1 o'clock Pacific time. So is there anyone that would not want to do that? And it's okay. Is there anyone who would not, it would not work for them to move our class up to 1 o'clock? Okay. So next week from that time on, we will meet at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Okay. Now, I am going to be talking and probably reaching out to some of you because okay, Angelique, yes.
Sorry, is it the same link we are following then?
It will be, everything will be the same. Yes, same link.
Thank you.
And as we go along through the year, I really, really want us to have space for different culture traditions. Like I brought in the Celtic today. I think that so enriches things. And so just be aware that I'm going to be reaching out and say, what would you like to, or would you like to, even set space or speak of what your traditions are around being together. Okay. Okay. So let's get into today. So I'm going to go back a little bit. We're going to go back, the 7 divine star families each had an agenda, and the agenda was an aspect of good. That is still in place. It has never changed. Every soul on the planet has made a choice to experience good. That has never changed. That declaration to experience an aspect of good or aspects of good is solid in their innately energy flow. They don't have to re-choose it. They've probably forgotten it. They've been crippled away from it, but that is who they are. That's the reason they are in this bodysuit. What got them here was that they made a choice to get on this journey to experience the vibration, a certain vibrational range in a unique way with a unique group. So last week we began addressing a little bit more about the third world. The third world was a major experience within the family of curiosity, but those vibrational waves impact all those in this 7 family collective. Okay. So remember last week we went and I had you connect to your divine family. Let them know we're from the future, you're from the future. That's like going back to your ancestors to say, before you birth, there's a correction I want to have us make, and that is to bring in the PTO, this group who knows how to design a sensitivity shield within our boundaries to identify beings we've never been around before. We have, those 7 families, it would be like somebody growing up, on the farm or in the Netherlands of some place where everything's lovely and good. And then they hit a city that's got a lot of corruption, a lot of danger, and they've never experienced it before. So we went to our families and said, let's bring in this team to help design a sensitivity shield for our boundaries. And you held space as they made an agreement to bring that aspect of the PTO into their design and upgrade the boundaries for your family at the place just before they move into the first world. So it's very, very far away. But then remember, I had you bring that sensitivity choice and anchor it into your space and all you're connected to in love. A sensitivity shield into your boundaries. So I want you to take about 3 minutes and consider anything this week. How do you think that might have impacted that you didn't think about? Did you feel a little bit safer? Were you more aware of things around you? How did that change of making your boundaries more sensitive to the outsiders? And I'm just going to give you 3 minutes. And so about 2:15 we'll be back. That's 4 minutes, but 2:15 we'll be back. And so think about it, write it, and then we'll go forward. And as you're doing that, come up with a reality statement. How do you want to experience your sensitivity? What's the experience that you want to have because you have a heightened sense of awareness or sensitivity? If you use the concept of good mind, it would be like, as soon as I feel or sense something that is off or uncomfortable, I take action with my healing tools. That would be one way to use the extra sensitivity. So now we're going to move to the chip. We were wise enough to know that when the chip was active in each of those group spaces, it would periodically throw us off or feel disconnected or slow down the flow, that we knew that we would be not stable. And because there was a chip that we had chosen, that we had inserted, then the chip had its own program. It had a mind of its own. It had its own program, it was neither good nor bad. It was going to be doing its thing and going around and knocking us down and letting us build, knocking us down, letting us build. So that's the reason for the 13th group. So stop and think about that. So we literally, without thinking about it, without thinking it in this fashion, because we weren't down here on the planet, it would be like someone has to help me rebalance. Someone has to help me rebalance. You see, I can't do it myself. Because of the chip, we couldn't. That was the truth. But the concept then is I need an external help. I need external help. Is that the Messiah complex? Who's going to help me? Who's going to fix me? External, external, external. And in that situation, that was true. They needed that 13th group to be stable to hold the space. And then each group would then be able to eliminate the chip, make sure their formula was fine. Well, we've gone up and we've said, okay, chip removed. But what about the concept that says, I need somebody to fix me? Or the other thing would be like, another way that you could see it in your life is, if I eliminate a negative pattern, a negative concept, I need to put something in. So think about, you are in the 7 families, we are balanced. We are like a bucket of water, all balanced. We're the ocean, we're all balanced. And if you put a body and swim in the water or swim in the ocean, you go into the water, you make an impact, you move out of the water, what does the water do? Christina, what does the water do?
It just reassembles to its origin naturally.
That's true. Without that chip in place, the concept that says when we take out a negative, we have to put in a positive, is null and void. It is, if we're still living in the concept that says when we pull out a negative, we have to put in a positive, or that leaves a hole, that's not the truth in our divine nature without the chip. Are you getting it? And if you want to keep the concept that says when I remove a negative, I have to put in a positive, you can, because again, personal choice is alive and well on the planet, and you can keep that concept. And then you do have to put in, because you say it is so. Or you could pull into a whole new landscape that says there's no chip, energy's flowing. I step in and I experience what I'm through with that experience. I step out and the energy is now back to its wholeness. Spirit?
I just want to make sure I try not to use the word understand anymore. Understand, okay? Because the programming that I grew up with was when I finally got to knowing that there was a programming in some form, the negative, you had to replace it with a positive. So you are saying once you get rid of the negative, you are back at that natural state of homeostasis, basically, that you do not have to innately put anything else in to reprogram it. It will just continue to flow in its natural state of being.
Yes, and the reason for that is that we don't have the chip from the third world any longer flowing a constant disruption. Because that requires then that we have to keep putting in the positive, because the chip kept knocking us off. The chip no longer exists. What is left if the chip is gone? What is left? Energy of wholeness, energy of wholeness, energy of wholeness. And it's been that way long enough it's been that way for about, what's the 20th? About 20 years. It's been that way for a long time. So that change is something that you can now call into an anchor in your life, because that chip no longer exists. So we don't have to keep counteracting.
Yeah.
You see.
Yes.
And again, I want you to come up with a reality statement about this. My innate star family's energy is vibrationally balanced, stable, and harmonious. When I step into a field to experience, I form the energy to the experience. The energy forms to the experience. And when I'm complete with the experience, I relax, and the innate nature is restored. Angelique?
So you could also then say we are transforming in our original state of being. So it's not a transformation, but it's transforming into the original.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So then it's funny to use the word transforming, though.
Yeah. Or, a lot of the words we use is kind of, they're kind of not exactly the word,
Yeah, but for me, it's like an understanding. Transformation is changing into something other, something new. But in this case, you don't change in something new, you change in something old, actually.
Right.
You're restoring to the original.
Right.
Yeah, the original. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When I think I told you this story, when I first, had enough of a package of processes together that I could do healing work and healing sessions using the concepts I was given. We did chakras, we did activate the old DNA, we did, energy, as the deeper stuff, what's caused, but I couldn't call it energy work or chakra work, because it was that, but it was more than that, and I didn't have a name for it. And so when I asked, and I sat for several days going like, what, because I'm not really good at words like that. And so I said to the team, I said, you guys probably know the name. Why don't I just ask you? And I said, do you have a name? And they said, we do. And I said, okay, what is it? They gave me 4 letters, R-E-A-N. R-E-A-N. And I wrote it down, looked at it, thought they were joking with me, because they do joke. and walked away, came back several hours the next day, I don't know which, looked at it on my desk, and I knew exactly what they were saying. It's re-at-one-ment now. That's exactly what we're talking about here. Re-at-one-ment now. So when you get those causes out of the way, especially the outsider out of the way, then what we're really doing is restoring our vibrational field to our original, our oneness, which is that wholeness. Which is, I mean, we've taught a lot of methods talk about that, of course, but the difference in this system is what is causing us to cycle in repeating patterns of pain. That was the question. So they said, if you want to do that work, we will have to show you what information is missing to go to cause. Third world cause is where we're going. And that's what we have to get rid of in order to stop the recycling in pain on the planet. Spirit, I saw you moving forward.
So if we find a healthy way to remove the negative, and I know this is what you're teaching, which I'm so honored to be here, all this fancy healing and money spending and all these books is like totally unnecessary.
No, I wouldn't say it that way. I would say that when you get cause out of the way, all those other methods, all those methods cause energy to restore to wholeness. That's what all healers want to have happen. I want that to have happen, but so it's not the processes that are the problematic. Yeah, the problematic thing is that the cause, the outsiders haven't been embraced as the cause. I mean, most
the culprit.
Yeah, so it's like the elephant under the rug. Nobody's gonna say there's an elephant under the rug, and so I've got the trunk process that we'll call, hey, if we fix this rope, I'll be fine. If you fix this, tree trunk, we'll be fine. Everybody has a piece of how they want to make a difference, but getting the elephant exposed and out of the way, all those processes then, because most of them that I'm aware of work on universal laws.
Okay.
Will then the energies that they bring together will be able to stabilize to wholeness and remain there.
Okay.
You see. So it's like everything we've been doing up until now, even though it doesn't, we've done a whole lot of survival and working because the outsiders kept knocking us off, and the chip itself kept knocking us off. You see? So everything that is available that brings wholeness in mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, the galactic work, there's not many doing that I'm aware of, but all of those processes then will work and hold, and the energy will hold. So it's not about not needing them. Oh yeah, we'll need them. I use the word sovereignty to designate a space, if you will, in which outsiders no longer exist in that space. Where outsider domination, outsiders are gone. Now, when they're gone, and they are, and we've got, I checked it just this morning, we have about 30% of them left is all. I mean, we're really moving well. So we have 30% of them left. When outsiders are gone, we will be left with our own personal injury, genetic trauma, pain and concepts within female and male psyche and mass consciousness. That's all based on survival and hurt and injury. But that sovereignty, meaning then, okay, then we can continue to use what we know and watch us move ourselves into wholeness, oneness, re-at-one-ment now, and stay there. That's what I see. Does that answer?
Can I just clarify, when you say chip, is that the same like the programs we have? Is that the reference?
The original program chip occurred in the third world. And that was created by one of the families so they could have an experience of breathing alone, like with maybe 10% of home once in a while. So it would be like they would be fully present, have all their energy, and all of a sudden the chip would come in, and it would be like the energy flow would shut down. The garden had all the water coming and everything's growing and then all of a sudden there's a drought for a time. What would that feel like? That isn't that we intentionally created that chip for that experience, and we only intended it to be there for a short time. And then the 13th group would be the ones that could stabilize space as one by one, the other 12 said, we're through with the ride. And they would take their own chip out, but they had to be stabilized, because if they were trying to take the chip out and all of a sudden it activated and now their energy is all corrupted, because it's like trying to fix a computer and all of a sudden you hit a hot wire and you blow up the whole computer. So they needed that 13th group, and this is the third world, to hold space. It was a beautiful plan. So the 13 was to hold space. And in holding that space, the one by one, those 12 groups then would be in the space, they would be held, they'd get the chip out, be back to wholeness, and be still in the third world, holy, fully whole, fully one. That was the intention. But the second whisper of the outsiders was to the 13th group specifically. They just said broadcasting to them, because they could see that they were getting a little bit denser and slower frequency. They could see the impact, the 13th could. And they went, oh my gosh, I hope they stop soon, because they're devolving. They are falling in energy. And so the outsiders said to the 13th, you're not enough to do this. This is a huge job. You can't do this alone, but we know how to do it. We've been around the block longer. And they invited the outsiders into the space. And the outsiders' intention, of course, was not to help, but to take over. And that locked all of that curiosity family into balance, imbalance, wholeness, not wholeness, disruption, and then from there the slide down. And the other families, as they were also invaded, pretty soon they came together as a collective, trying to figure out how they could, as a group, maybe be strong enough to restore. The programs on this planet are just the same. It's just a replication of what's gone on in the 13th.
So the chip is not the programs. The chip is not the same as programs, like the programs we run, No. Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. That was a chip that just automatically shut down the irrigation flow to the garden, to the family, and then opened it up, and whatever happened. It had no intention other than the chip was a chip. It had no intention. Programs down that we get programmed with in this lifetime sometimes they're put in place by intention, by groups, by others. Are we picking it up? So it's a different thing. Yes. Yes, Emma.
So then there's that 13th group who never experienced the chip. And I look at kind of a lot of the people in my life that I know, including me, and there's this burden of, I'm supposed to help people and I can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
was that kind of programming dissolved when the chip was dissolved, or is that something?
No, it had to be done separately, and we're gonna take a short break. Then we're gonna come back and work specifically on that, because
Okay.
the 13th group experienced cat lovers here. They experienced the chip vicariously. And again, I've said this before, we'll get to it when we get closer to Earth. It's really important to understand we have direct experiences and we have vicarious experiences. The 13th group was willing to not have a chip and not experience the ups and downs directly. They could observe it, feel it, because they were connected. So they were experiencing it vicariously. When they were unable to do their job, the 13th, all those in the 13th went back to their original. So restored to 12, but the members of the 13th group went back, committed to not tell the others that no help was coming. So it left us thinking help's on the way, and therefore, who's going to fix me? Who's going to fix me? It left us thinking help's on the way. And it left the 13th guilty because they couldn't help or didn't help. And everything that happened from that point on was their fault, their responsibility to fix it. The pain of everybody was there, it was on their shoulders. So they walked away with that burden that they couldn't share with anybody. And that's the kind of the complex we're going to address after we come back from break. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. Any questions before we take a break?
Yeah, please.
Okay, Angelique.
I don't understand what you said. Did you say a word vicariously?
Yes,
What?
vicariously.
What is that?
It's like if I am in an abusive relationship and I'm feeling either emotional or physical, I'm feeling it directly, right? But when I sit with you, Angelique, because you listen deeply, I can say to you what's going on for me, and you don't feel it directly, but you hear it. So you vicariously hear it. So you vicariously experience it. That's
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
you bet.
I had to look it up, Angelique, and in German it's indirekt.
Ah,
In German, indirekt.
thank you.
Stellvertretend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a 5-minute break, which means we'll get back here at about, well, let's do four, let's see, 40, yeah. Let's do 45. Is that okay? That's a little bit more. So that will give you time to definitely stretch, water, bathroom break, whatever, at 45 after the hour. Okay, we'll see you back. Okay, we've got a minute. So anybody, as soon as you're ready, put on your camera, then I'll know you're back.